Tourism. I'm your host, Morgan Miles, and I am so excited that you all are back for episode 2. Last week, we kicked off things by diving into the ocean with marine conservation. Today, we're heading into the jungle. Well, almost. We're talking wildlife conservation, Belize style. So let's set the scene. Imagine a zoo that's not like any other. Instead of concrete cages and artificial settings, it's nestled under a natural forest canopy where the animals are surrounded by sights, sounds, and feels of Belizean nature. They call it the best little zoo in the world for a reason. It's more than a zoo. It's a powerhouse for conservation and education. And today, we're lucky to be joined by someone who knows every corner of this incredible place. I'm here with Noelie Chable, an education officer at the Belize Zoo. Noelie's not just passionate about wildlife, she's out there every day working to protect Belize's incredible creatures. Noelie, welcome to the show.
Thank you for that amazing introduction, Morgan.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for giving us this space to be able to talk about the zoo and wildlife conservation in Belize.
Perfect. We love that energy. I love that you are here. I love to tell people that I am a spokeswoman or a champion for the zoo as well because I love the zoo. I feel like if you ask me, I know everything about the zoo, although I don't. So I'm glad that we're here having this discussion today, Noelie. So let's dive right in. Why don't we? Let's talk about the zoo. So tell us, what makes the Belize Zoo so unique? Why is it that it is so much more than just a typical zoo? Why is it different?
That's an excellent question, Morgan, and thank you for asking that because our zoo is like no other zoo.
Yes.
We have a t-shirt that says the Belize Zoo like no other zoo. Because
I
we're like,
it.
yeah, because we just have these animals that we love and take care of.
Yes.
While showing Belizeans and teaching them about their natural heritage. And since you mentioned about the cages and the concrete structures, our zoo is designed to reflect the natural habitats of the animals.
Yes.
Therefore, we need to mention that none of the animals from the zoo are just taken from the wild. They all have a very unique story. And therefore, that's what I think that connects a lot of people with the zoo because of the forest vibe, in quotes. And as well, because it's a living classroom. We have from local students and students from abroad that come to the zoo to learn about the animals of Belize.
And hopefully me, very soon, I will be diving headfirst into your night tour that you guys offer. So I love that. I love everything so far. So it's definitely like you're stepping into their world. It's not just observing from the outside, which I love. You're immersed in all of it as a natural zoo. That connection must be really powerful for people visiting, especially when they hear stories behind each animal, right?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So, speaking of stories, I know that the Belize Zoo has rescued a lot of animals over the years. Can you tell us a bit about the rescue and rehabilitation work that you're doing there? What is it like to bring in a new animal and to help it recover, and if you're setting it back free into the wild, or what you all do?
So, like you said, we are more than just a zoo. We are a rescue and rehabilitation center. So the process of rehabilitating actually is a joint effort from the community, the forest department, and other rehabilitation centers in Belize. Therefore, the process can begin from a simple, phone call or a report from a very concerned community member who wants to help or has made the attempt to rescue an animal that is either injured or orphaned.
Wow.
So it starts from there, from the concern, the report, it gets to us. The forest department has to intervene depending on the species and the situation. Right. Then they intervene. If we have to seek out the help of other professionals from other rehabilitation facilities, then that is done as well. Ultimately, to decide if the animal is a good candidate to be released back into the wild. Of course, we
Right.
do not want to keep them if we don't have a reason
Right,
to keep them.
sure.
If they're able to survive in the wild on their own, that decision will be made by the professionals. And if we realize or we see that the animal cannot survive in the wild on its own, then we make a home for the animal at the Belize Zoo, and that is how we're able to share their stories, how they got to the zoo,
Right.
and everything, their entire life, to the people so that they can learn.
Which is beautiful. It's start to finish, and it really makes viewers or visitors from the outside feel more like they're a part of the journey, which is it's great. It must be so fulfilling to watch them bounce back and kind of live more happy lives at the zoo, the ones that you do rehabilitate and have to keep. Do you have any stories that really stand out? Maybe a particular animal that became an ambassador for conservation or something along those lines?
Yes, of course, we have a lot.
What is your favorite then? What is your one?
Thank you for asking. My favorite animals are the zoo or the tapirs, actually.
Oh.
And to add to the first question that you asked, once the animals are taken to the zoo and it's decided that that's where they're gonna be, then I must give credit where it's due. The zookeepers, they work very hard. They dedicate
Yes.
themselves to animals, especially when they come in as babies, as orphans. A lot of the animals at the zoo came in as orphans, and they were separated from their mom from any traumatic event or an accident. So from that point, that stage in life, when they're only weeks or months old, the zookeepers dedicate all of their time
Sure.
to take care.
And I'm sure they get attached as well.
Oh, definitely. And you know what it's like. Like babies, you have to feed them their formula every a few hours. You have to make sure that they're okay.
Yes.
And with the question with my favorite animals is Fuego the tapir. Yes, we do have the jaguar ambassadors and the other ambassadors, but my favorite ones are the tapirs. And actually, it's kind of like a rite of passage for almost every Belizean to visit the zoo. I'm pretty sure that you know about April the tapir.
I do, yes.
April the tapir, when she lived out her 30 years, the mantle was passed on to Fuego the tapir. And Fuego's story is that he was involved. He was found in an area where there was a forest fire, and unfortunately, he was separated from his mother because his mother passed in the fire.
Right.
So he was found on the edge of the forest, just calling out for his mom. He was weeping, and they were able to figure out that he was only like a year old, because that's the time that a baby tapir spends with his mom.
Right.
So when he was taken to the zoo after that, we make sure that when animals arrive to the zoo, they're placed in like a quarantine for some time. No animal is taken directly for the people to see. They need some time to be, set away from humans and from human contact as possible. So it all happens, the rehabilitation and recovery process all happens behind the scenes.
Right.
And eventually, when the animal is ready to, for the public to see, they are brought out to the zoo grounds, and that is how we start teaching them and their visitors that they are ambassadors, and we share the story like Fuego's story.
Wow, that's beautiful. Fuego the tapir sounds like a character or something.
Yes, and we
Set in
use
stone.
Fuego to bring awareness to proper fire management in Belize as well.
Wow.
So his story helps to teach people that we need to be responsible. when
Impacts
burning
more
fire.
than just the
Yes.
zoo.
Yes.
Wow. I think it's so special that the zoo is turning what could have been a sad story into something that really inspires people to do better and be more cautious about things. It's like he's helping others understand how important it is to respect wildlife. So it's not all easy, is it? No, there's a lot of hard work that goes into
Yes.
it, especially for the zookeepers. Belize's wildlife is facing some big challenges out there. Noelie, what would you say are the biggest threats to Belize's animals, and how are you all tackling them?
Okay, so one of the main ones that the Belize Zoo is working along with other stakeholders is habitat loss and habitat fragmentation. So the Belize Zoo is part of the Maya Forest Trust,
Okay.
and they have purchased land to try to connect those gaps as a forest to, preserve a space for the animals to live, to find food, to find mates, and so forth. Sadly, that is bisected by the George Price Highway, and therefore another threat would be wildlife collisions. So we would see that happening a lot. That is one way how we are, tackling that issue of habitat loss and habitat fragmentation. But there's others as well, like illegal wildlife trafficking. We have poaching and hunting that still occurs. So with that, we tend to focus a lot more on education. So we have our outreach programs as well as our on-site programs where we teach and we have these difficult conversations that, sometimes the public is not aware of that are happening.
And these conversations need to be had.
Definitely.
Right. And human-wildlife conflict, I mean, that's gotta be tough for sure. I imagine that it's tricky when a jaguar decides that someone's farm looks like a buffet. How do you guys even start to address that issue?
Yeah. So the Belize Zoo has an ongoing program that began in the early 2000s. It's called the Human Jaguar Conflict Program, and that is where the Belize Zoo comes in, and we have these dialogues with the farmers, of course, and with the public, and we teach them that if there is any incidents of the jaguars or a jaguar coming into a farm and it starts preying on cattle, to not, get rid of them.
Right.
We try to give them measures on how to mitigate or reduce human-wildlife conflict.
Right.
And therefore, the Human Jaguar Conflict Program removes these jaguars that are in conflict with humans. And of course, when you find out and you revise the situation,
right.
We have seen that most of the jaguars that have been in those situations, they were either very old, they were sick, they have been in previous conflict with humans, and some of them even you find them with bullets embedded under their skin, and also some of them are just very old and sick,
Right.
When a jaguar has outlived its 12 to 15 years in the wild, it has lived its best life. So now it wouldn't have the same amount of energy,
right,
or ability to prey on their natural prey, so they would resort to easier prey as well in that case. And either way, sometimes humans as well, we make way for these jaguars sometimes when we're not responsible,
right,
where we're disposing of carcasses,
right,
and food materials that typically would have jaguars come closer. So the Belize Zoo does a great job in teaching the people that there's always another way,
right,
how we can coexist.
Yes.
Definitely how we can coexist with the jaguars.
Wow, so the jaguars are just out here, like you said, and they're living their best life, getting free meals. But it is amazing that the Belize Zoo is helping to teach people how people can coexist with these animals, and that they are truly beautiful animals in the wild. So I know that you're really passionate about educating the next generation. I mean, who isn't, right? What is it like working with the kids and seeing them get excited about conservation and the animals at the zoo?
I'm glad you asked this question. I love teaching. I love teaching children. I love having, 4 to 5 buses come to the zoo with a lot of children, and just
a lot of kids.
Yeah, and they're eager to learn. They're eager to find out, and it's amazing how for some of these kids, it's their first time seeing a scarlet macaw.
Wow.
It's their first time seeing a porcupine, and it's so motivating to see how they come with that curiosity. The energy to learn and find out, hey, how did he get here? Or where can I see more of these?
Right.
And when we tell them these stories of our ambassadors, of how the jaguars got there, they do get inspired, and
of course
it's a core part of our mission to inspire Belizeans and the people that visit us to protect the animals here in Belize.
Right. And I mean, that's incredible. Like, there is nothing like seeing a little kid's face light up when when they see the animal for the first time and when they start learning about it, it's amazing. It's beautiful.
It's very rewarding, I would say.
100%. It's really like they understand the magic of nature from such a young age, and like everyone says, our youth right now, they're the future generation. So if they're getting excited from now, I mean, imagine what great things they're going to be doing in the future.
Yeah, it definitely gives me hope. It gives us hope.
For sure.
That we're definitely going to have more of us, that we can pass down that mantle to them so that they can take over and protect our native species.
Right. And so for those of us who aren't kids but still want to help, let's talk a bit about tourism. What can visitors do to make a positive impact on wildlife conservation when they come to Belize?
Okay, so they can definitely choose to work with eco-friendly tour companies.
Right.
That's a good way. And also to ensure that we're trusting people that they do things the right way.
Yes.
So if you're visiting places like the Belize Zoo, like the Community Baboon Sanctuary, or any national natural park, to ensure that you're following the rules of that area, because those rules are in place for a reason. For example, the feeding and the handling and the touching of the animals. First of all of that is illegal, and second of all, we want to ensure that we're respecting the animals and their spaces, and we want to make sure that we're not putting ourselves in a situation that could cause us harm and harm to the animals as well. So I think that's that's my key take on that, to ensure that we're seeing, we're learning with our eyes, we're hearing everything that is around us, appreciating and respecting, and I think that is a good way to go.
Right. So to all our listeners out there, do not pet the jaguars. Keep your hands away from the cages, guys. But in all seriousness, it's about respecting their space and understanding that we're just visitors in their world. They come first. We are just entering in it and hopefully respecting it.
Definitely.
Right. So as we wrap up, Noelie, what's next for the zoo? Are there any new goals or projects that you're excited about that you can maybe share with us today?
Oh yeah, definitely. I would really love to tell you about this, because it goes back to what I told you about the wildlife collisions with the tapirs and all of that.
Yes.
So the Belize Zoo is in the works with other stakeholders and the government to make wildlife crossings for these animals, to ensure a safe passage from one side of the highway to the next. Like I mentioned, with the preservation of land as well, with the purchasing of land, to connect the forest and to have the animals, roam freely in that area with as minimum human contact and conflict. We will continue to do that with the landscapes. And as well, we have something in education in the works that I'm very excited about, is our empathy workshop. We launched one in early 2024, so we're excited to do another one this coming year, and it's simply trying to gather educators from other NGOs to bring them together to study and learn about the best practices of environmental education. So I'm very excited to strengthen that network and to see how we can move forward with educating Belize about conserving our lands, our wild spaces, and our wild animals, our wildlife.
Wow, Noelie, this has just been so inspiring. I hope that for all our viewers watching, it has given them more appreciation for the zoo, for our zookeepers. You all are literally hands down to you all. You guys keep everything moving, everything going. Remember that supporting conservation isn't just about donating. It's about educating ourselves and making mindful choices. So respecting the environment, respecting the animals, the wildlife that are there. So all right, folks, that is it for today's episode of Tea, Talk and Tourism. Join us as we head into Belize's lush forest to talk about terrestrial conservation. So grab your tea, bring your talk, and let's keep this conversation rolling. See you next week.